Hey game devs, let's get this fence post and fence on our Ludus Magnus terrace set up right now. To do this first, I'm going to go ahead and come in here and zoom in and take a look at it, and then I'm going to go to wireframe mode because I don't really need to see what I'm looking at now. All I need to see is the edges, and I'm going to make this with a spline. So let's go to the front view real quick, and we'll see there's our door frame, and I kind of know how thick I want this to be, and we can look at our reference and see if there's any idea. And of course it's zoomed back in for us, so that's awesome of it. I'm gonna say they're about a third of the way up of the door right here, and they've got an edge and it's got some bevelly stuff in here, and we can do a little bit more detail when we get to actually doing it in class. But for now, let's just do something. I'm gonna figure out it's gonna be about this tall. How's that? We'll just say that tall. So I'm gonna go back to the create menu, and I'm gonna go to the shape mode and go to line and simple. I'm gonna click on this edge right here in the front about the height I want it to start at, like this, and then I'm going to hold shift and it'll make it a straight line for me. So I'm going to hold shift and figure that's probably too high, but we'll fix it. And then this right here, and then I'll go in maybe a little bit of a diagonal on that one, then I'll go straight for this one, and then I'll go down, and then I'll go out, down, and over. Yeah, I made it a little bit taller than I started a little bit higher, so I just made it shorter. And when I pull it back down, it's probably the height I want it to be. And again, we can adjust this as need to be. So the reason I didn't want to do it with this on is because a lot of times it's going to be in front of what I'm working on, and it wouldn't be what I wanted to see. So next thing we're going to do is the stuff I showed you in class, is that you can use lathe for an actual purpose, and you can mess with it after the fact. So if we come down here and we go to lathe and push L to find lathe, and you'll see it goes to the top, L. You'll see by default it does this weird thing, and that's because it's going to the center. If we look at the if we come back down here to the line and turn this down, you'll see that it's going from the center of the creation of the spline. Well, that's all good and well, but it's really not helpful for making a lathe of a pillar or something. So I probably want to go to the maximum. Maximum is to the right and minimum is to the left. So if I say minimum, it's going to go out that way, and that means the furthest part out it goes is right here. It's going to use that as a center point for the lathe. It's not what we want. We want the maximum. So we go to maximum. And that's closer to what we want. We may or may not want the width that it has right there, and that's fine. We can go to the front view again, and we're going to change it. Now with that on, we can change it to be the width we want. Actually, you know, real quick, let me show you what we talked about last week. That right now it's 16 segments. If I change this to 4, I've now got my cube. Or whatever I want it to be. You know, I can make it a little bit more, something like that if I'd rather. I'm going to use a cube because it seems to be the easiest. Anyway, because it seems to be what the image shows, excuse me. So if I go back to front here, and I say that's too wide even from the angle that we're looking at it from, I want to keep it the way it is. I don't want to turn it. I know it's on the diagonal when I make it this way, but that's fine. I'm going to go back to the front, go here. I'm going to go to the vertex mode of the sub-object in the stack. So I'm going to pull this out, and what I can do is turn on the final results again, and as I pull this out, let me turn this to transparent here. As I pull this out, it'll make that hole right there for me, and then I can mess with it, and I can try and put another lathe on, or I don't know if you can redo it, so that's the problem. It's too thick. So we're going to say that about that thick. I'm going to take both of these guys and make sure they're just about where I want them. So that's twice as thick as it's going to be. Turn off the vertex, go to the lathe L, and lathe will be at the top. I'm going to name this, by the way, pillar or fence post for now. Then I'm going to go to maximum again, and that's about where I wanted it to be. Okay, so now I've got this made. Now I just have to do what? You're right. Well, like I told you before too, if I collapse it right now, I'm going to have some weird vertices and stuff inside of here. So what I usually do is I take these two interior ones, and if I show you what it looks like, it's going to make this hole. And one of the great things it does by making that hole is it makes a quad. So yay, cheats. And then we'll go ahead and say convert to editable poly. like that, and then I'm going to say 3 for border, grab this one and cap it just because I know it's a quad there. And funny enough, I'm going to hide the other stuff real quick so we can see just the pillar. I'm going to grab these things. Actually, I can even do it with the border. I'll grab this border and say delete. Because again, we're not going to see that. It doesn't need to be known. We don't need to have that visual. We will see the top. We will see the bottom, probably depending on where we are. We aren't going to see the very bottom of it because it's going to sit on the terrace. Okay, so we can chamfer this. We can do a bunch of stuff to this to make it work for what we want, or we can move on, and that's what we're going to do in this case. So I'm going to go back to front. Actually, I'm going to go to top, and I'm going to rotate it. Now, when I rotate it, I'm going to turn on the A, so it rotates on the snap. And I'm going to get out of the sub-object mode here. And even though it's on a weird position, as long as I go a 45-degree angle, because it was on a 45-degree angle, it's fine. This may be the smartest time to go into your hierarchy and affect pivot point and center to object. Probably go to front and go to the move tool and then move it down. So it's like that. So it's center of the object on the bottom there. And then we'll say align to world real quick. Then, of course, like I've said before, the last thing you do is you always reset Xform. So you go over here to the utilities panel and you say reset Xform. And then we go ahead and when you say reset selected, and then come back and collapse it to an editable poly. Because right now, all it's done is put this modifier on here. If I collapse to editable poly, every time you do that, it'll snap you back to here. Okay, so our fence post. The last thing I want to do, here we go, is I want to make the, let me pull the picture up again. We're going to make this thing right here. This is going to be done, generally speaking. We aren't going to build the geometry for this in this case, but we're going to use just a plane. So really simple, a plane. So we'll go back to our max real quick. Front plane. And I could, you know, draw another plane out, all that stuff. Or, since I'm working editable poly and I'm probably going to have these attached, I can just shift... I don't know what that, shift and drag this out, and now I have a plane. And I keep it as an element, so it's still part of the same thing. I'm going to center it on this plane right here, like that. I'm going to go to my front viewport. Now I'm going to pull up the other stuff I had before on hide by name. And because I didn't name anything, I'm paying the price. So do what I say, not what I do. Let me go name this real quick on hide. So there's what we made before. Let me turn this off real quick and do my diligence here. Terrace door. Okay. I'm going to grab this, and if I look at the picture, and this is again, you're just going to keep checking your reference here. If I look at that, of course, it zoomed out. If I look at this reference, it looks like, you know, it's off the edge. It's not exactly on the edge, but we haven't finished the edge yet. So really at this point, I'm thinking this is enough for now. We have, well, let me do one more thing. Front, and let's get this at least the right height. And what I probably want to do is move this there to the position right there. And then I'm going to take this one, pushed one is all I did, and went to the vertex mode. I'm going to drag this out so it goes to there. One of the earlier times I did this, because I'm going to attach these all together, earlier times I did this, I had this in the center and all this stuff. And while that can work, it can also get in the way of a lot of stuff you're working on. So it also means that you have to match them up in the center every time and all this other stuff. So I left it like this, and for now we're going to do it like that. And you know, we can just fake it and pull it up for now. Eventually we're going to do some more, and there's going to be an add-on to here. Is the reason I'm not trying to fit this perfectly. But for right now, that's it. And it really looks small to me. So we are going to do the old scale real quick. Since we don't have numbers anymore, that's fine. Yeah, that looks fine. Cool thing that I moved it down to the bottom of the axis here. When I scale it up, it scales off that frame. All I have to do really is take this sucker. Actually, I should probably do it this way first. This over so it's on that piece right there. Grab this one, do this, move it to there. Actually, it probably needs to be off a little bit. This is some of the times when you make a duplicate of something that you might want to do that first. But again, we'll come back to making this exactly right in a second. But we need to try and make it come off this side. So it's coming over here. It needs to fall into the side of this pillar. That's all I'm trying to do. All right, that's it. That's all we got for now. We'll move on to the next piece next.